Hello, everybody. This is Tim Gowens with Summer Street Productions, and it's a pleasure to have with me today Mr. Chris Graver. Say hello there, Mr. Chris.
Hi, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great. Thank you for being with us today. Chris is with Krause Family Ford once again in Woodstock, Georgia. He is the F&I director there at the facility, and it's a pleasure to have you today with us, Chris.
It's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you came to be employed at Krause Family Ford.
Sure. So I am originally from New York. That's where I was born. I grew up there. And most recently, I moved up here from Florida about 3.5 years ago. And I was just looking for a really good place to call home in an employer. Yeah. And Krause fit that role for me.
And I know that as you and I've talked, you were formerly a police officer, right?
I was.
Yeah. Tell the listener a little bit about that. That's kind of an interesting, quick story.
Sure. Yeah. So I was in law enforcement early on, right out of college, and I did it for about 10 years, just regular beat cop. Yep.
Okay. That's great. Well, how in the world did you wind up going from being a police officer to being an F&I director at Krause Family Ford? I think that's very interesting.
Sure. So I was, like I said, I was in law enforcement right out of college, and I was that was my career plan, and God sometimes has different plans, and things some things happen that unfortunately I was in a bad car wreck, and
Wow.
and that kind of took that career path and then kind of
Yeah.
created a new path.
A new
for me.
path. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. All right, so I've got 3 categories today with you today,
Okay.
and we want to talk to you about 3 different things there, Chris. To start with, we want to talk about the F&I role. A lot of people don't know what F&I necessarily means, what it stands for. So first of all, just tell us what F&I stands for.
So F&I is just, it's acronym for finance and insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what we're doing is we're just presenting our customers with, opportunities to protect their purchase through finance and insurance products.
So that's what an F&I director does, is they seek to protect the customer's investment.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got you. Okay, that's very good. So what's your primary mission, would you say, at Krause Family Ford as the F&I director? What would you say?
I would say that my primary mission is just to make sure that, I look at all of our customers as people that are just out there doing the same thing we do. We're all consumers, right?
Right.
And I just look at it from a perspective of let's, talk to our customers as we would our friends or our family, treat them the same way, and determine what their needs are, and then take products that we offer at Krause Family Ford and present those options to our customers to meet the needs that they've expressed that they have.
Okay, I got you. That's great. That's great. Another question for you in the category of just talking about what F&I is. So many people think that the deal is done once they agree on a price, right? Okay, with their salesperson.
Yep.
Can you walk us through what happens when a customer steps into your office as the F&I director? So explain to us kind of some of the basic steps that you're going to take.
Sure. So one of the first things I want to do, obviously, is just confirm the information that the customer, has. So when I meet a customer, I'll bring them into my office. Of course, congratulate them. I mean, it's for most people, it's the second largest purchase that they're going to make. So obviously, that's a big thing for them. And I'm going to bring them into my office, and I'm just going to confirm their information, make sure that we're registering and titling to the correct place, and just talk a little bit, get to know them a little bit more.
Yeah, you spend some time with them, make them comfortable. I know in the past when I was a young man, I would be a little bit uncomfortable at that stage in buying a car, especially it was, as a young person.
Yeah.
I'm not young anymore, but as a young person, you would feel a little intimidated, walking into this guy's office and what's this guy going to do, and he's going to treat me fairly and that sort of thing. And that's one of the things I know about Krause Family Ford is you recognize you're attracting families to the dealership, so you want to create that family atmosphere and make people feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great.
And the reason why we spend so much time kind of getting to know our customers and like you said, treating them like family, because at the end of the day, that's what they become, is because we want to make sure that we're tailoring whatever we're presenting to them for their specific wants and needs.
That's really great. That's really, and I think that's partially why Krause Family Ford has such a good reputation. That's been the training, so to speak. Speaking of training, what kind of background or training is typical for someone in your position? Is it more finance based or is it more sales based? Some people don't really don't really know. Is it finance based? Do you have to have a financial background to do what you're doing, or can you have another background? Tell us about your training.
So you can have a financial background. I don't know that it's necessary, because you are dealing with finance. You are dealing with someone's finances and with
Financial principles and things like that.
lenders and things like that.
Right.
Yes. So
Right.
it's helpful. It can be helpful. It can kind of take a lot of the learning curve away, but it's not a requirement. It's not necessary.
Yeah, I got you. So did you have any kind of special training being a former police officer? How did you get your training coming from being a police officer?
Some of the things that I learned, it's crazy to say, in law enforcement, kind of
Well, that's fine.
kind of transition me into
Transitioned
that
over,
role.
yeah.
There's a lot of legality, obviously, in law enforcement, and so being compliant and presenting things and disclosing things in proper form, just kind of came second nature to me. So it was an easy transition.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. I know Krause is very good at training. They've got lots of people there with experience that can train you into
Absolutely.
the deeper aspects.
And to your point, I spend a lot of time learning Krause Family Ford's processes and becoming certified in compliance and in F&I. So yes, there was. I mean, although I brought a lot of knowledge with me, I still had the opportunity to learn and be trained.
No, that's great. That's
Yeah.
really great. Really great. How do you and the sales team work together to ensure the customer has a seamless and positive experience from the showroom floor to driving off the lot? I thought that was
That's
a good question. How are you working with the sales staff to ensure your customer has a good experience?
I would say the key is communication across all boards.
Right.
Between communication with the salesperson and your finance manager, your salesperson and the customer, and then of course the customer with finance and with their salesperson, all across the board. Just keeping that those lines of communication, and then also setting realistic expectations. And we do that. We pride ourselves on doing that. So because of that, I feel like the customer feels that the process is seamless from when they sit down initially with their salesperson to when they're leaving finance with all their documentation and then getting into their new vehicle and taking delivery.
Okay, another category. Let's talk about another category. This is our second category of kind of questions I came up with.
Sure.
Navigating the vehicle's financing, which is, to me, can be very intimidating, right, to a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest advantages of financing a vehicle directly through the dealership versus getting a pre-approved loan from a personal bank or from a credit union?
That's a great question, Tim. So obviously there's the most simplest answer, which is with new vehicles, you have incentivized financing, which you're only going to get from the manufacturer, right? From Ford.
Yeah.
Aside from that, think about it. You purchase a vehicle once every, let's say, 5 years. So you're doing that process once every 5 years. We use over 30 different lenders, and we're doing it daily. All day, every day, we're selling vehicles, we're getting them financed. So the process is more seamless, okay, and more efficient when you go through the dealership, just because we have all of the things in place to make that simple for you.
So y'all have how many did you say?
Over 30 lenders.
Over 30 different lenders. Wow, that's incredible. That provides you a large gamut of opportunities for, depending on the person that's sitting with you, there may be some special financing that might need to take place, and you've got that in your toolbox.
Absolutely.
So to speak. I got you. Okay. So when you submit a credit application, you're not just looking at the score, correct? You're not just looking at that, right? So what key factors do lenders like Ford Credit, how do they approve or deny a loan or determine an interest rate? What are they looking for to provide those things for the guy that's wanting to buy that product?
Okay, and so I mean, and to your point, it's not simply looking at a score. They're looking at the credit profile in its entirety. So how long have you had credit? What type of credit do you have? What type of balances are you carrying on your open revolving credit? Have you ever had installment loans? Are you a first-time buyer? They are going to look at the score. That is going to factor into it. But there's a lot of other things that they look at when it comes to offering terms and rates and things like that.
Have you ever seen anybody with a high credit score that had poor standing in other areas? And have you ever seen that? Yeah.
Interestingly enough, yeah, I've seen high scores that you, if you look at the profile,
Yeah.
if you look at the accounts and it almost doesn't seem like it lines up,
Right.
Yeah, but yes, I've seen that before, and banks will take that into consideration.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Could you explain how down payments, trade-in values, and the length of the loan, like 60 months versus 72 months, impact not just the monthly payment, but the total cost of the vehicle?
Okay, so down payment and trade value, that can kind of go hand in hand, right?
Yes.
So that's going to affect something called loan to value. Okay. Meaning, how much loan are you taking out as compared to what the vehicle's value is based on an invoice or a third party like NADA or some type of book value. So when you put more money down, obviously you're putting yourself in a better position as far as that aspect of it goes, loan to value. Same thing with trade. If you have trade equity, but then it can have the other effect. If you have, if you have negative equity in your trade, if you owe more than what your trade is worth based on market value,
right,
then that'll change that loan to value. So that's just one piece of the puzzle that they look at, though.
Yeah.
Term, you mentioned term.
Yeah.
So, shorter terms, banks look at everything kind of from a perspective of risk, right? So the longer the term, and that means the longer ownership of the vehicle, right?
Right.
So there could be costs incurred as you own a vehicle for longer. So banks look at longer terms a little bit more, risky, which is why.
Really, that's interesting. I didn't realize that a bank, if you go 72 months, the bank does not necessarily want to do that.
Correct. And in some cases, depending on the vehicle, if the vehicle's too old or the mileage is too high, they may not offer you a 72-month term for certain vehicles.
So if it's a used vehicle, they may not necessarily offer you that length of time on it. I see.
Yep.
Okay. It's called loan to value.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
That's very interesting. You are full of information, Mr. Chris. Okay. Next question. What's one piece of advice that you would give a first-time car buyer who might be nervous about navigating the finance process?
So, and we've all been there, right? We've all been a first-time buyer at
Yes.
some point in time in our lives. It's been quite a while for me. But I would say just kind of knowing where you are. Knowledge is power, right? So knowing where you are in terms of, how much car can I afford? What is my credit score? What's on my credit? What things can I do to maybe, help my credit score because I'm getting ready to make a big purchase. So things like, things like that are helpful because it kind of, when you're going into that situation, if you know more or less what you're bringing to the table, it's not such a shock and surprise.
Okay. How do you assist customers who may have some challenges with their credit? Whether that's a bad credit history, so they made some mistake in the past. How do you deal with that? What options might you give someone that has some credit, some damaged credit?
Okay.
How would you deal with that?
So a lot of times, those are definitely case by case because everybody's kind of different in that respect, and it really depends on the situation. It depends on, is there a vehicle that the customer is currently in that we're coming out of, help them get out of a higher payment into a lower payment, or was a vehicle a total loss and now we're trying to help them get into another vehicle. It just kind of depends on which scenario that they're in. But at the end of the day, with the amount of lenders that we have, we usually have a really good option for those people who are credit challenged and they're just trying to rebuild or reestablish.
I guess you hear a lot of stories too, don't you?
Oh yeah,
I bet you do. I bet you hear a lot of stories. When you hear the stories, how do you make the customer feel okay about trying to buy a car? I mean, is there some psychology that you like to use to make customers feel comfortable?
I just like to be able to relate to my customers, no matter what the situation. So usually, I'll listen, and if there's if there's a point where I can relate to them and I can give them, some peace of mind and help them kind of understand, where the situation they were in, where they came from, and how we can move on and how they can rebuild from there. Of course, that's definitely, something that I enjoy. That's a part of my job that I really enjoy doing.
That's the part of your job that you enjoy doing.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
like
That's
helping
really
people.
good.
Yeah.
I would imagine the more successful you are at making people feel comfortable in somewhat an environment that can be a little stressful, the better F&I director you'll probably be observed as being, right? Would you say that to be true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more comfortable our customers are, and the more that they are, enjoying their experience. Absolutely, it's definitely reflected.
I think that's great, man.
Yeah.
Third and last category is protect the peace of mind. It's kind of the category that I named it. So
Okay.
So let's talk about the I in F&I. What does the I stand for? I know we said it earlier, but what is it?
It's insurance products.
Insurance, yeah. Okay. So what are the most common vehicle protection products that you offer, and why aren't they presented at this stage of the process or the purchase? Why is that?
We kind of, because of the fact that everybody's ownership kind of varies as far as how long they're going to own a vehicle, how many miles they're going to drive per year, how they do their service. Because all of that is kind of different from customer to customer, it's just more efficient, I would say, because you can't really generalize those products. You kind of have to, it's kind of based upon the vehicle trim, the driving of the customer, and then, how long they plan on owning the vehicle. So, for example, if you're someone who trades out of your vehicles every 4 or 5 years, obviously it wouldn't make sense for me to present you with a 10-year, extended service contract. Right? So we just want to make sure that we're presenting our customers with what's going to specifically fit them, because there's no point in paying for something that you're not going to use.
Right. I got you. In light of what you just said, can you explain a customer service index, CSI?
Sure.
And how does a good F&I director, using the correct products, increase the dealership's CSI? What would you say about that?
When you're presenting the customer with products that they're gonna use and that fit their ownership style and their needs, you're showing them that that they are individuals, because they are, right, and they feel that, and they feel that what you're presenting them is not, you're not just trying to give them products, you're presenting them with things that meet their needs and solve some type of an issue that they may have had in the past that they're concerned about, and because of that, because I feel like that's the type of experience that I would want, and that that you would probably want too.
Sure,
Tim,
absolutely.
That it helps with our with our CSI, just because they feel more, it's more of an efficient process, so we're not spending a lot of time in it, and it's also more of I guess, an easygoing process.
Yeah, it makes the customer feel good about their experience. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Can you explain GAP? And I think GAP stands for Guaranteed Asset Protection. Is that correct? GAP.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
GAP insurance is simply the term that's used. And what kind of car buyer should strongly consider GAP?
Sure.
And why?
Okay. So GAP is going to protect you against loss. Okay. So if your vehicle is a total loss, if it's stolen, and your insurance company deems it a total loss, GAP is going to cover you in a case where there's a deficiency. So if you owe $50,000 on a vehicle, and it's a total loss, and your insurance company, settles with you for $40,000, GAP covers that difference, right? And that's probably where it got the nickname GAP, right? So aside from the fact that it's an acronym, but when you're financing a vehicle over a longer term, especially if you're putting, you're not putting a lot of money down on that vehicle, so you're financing things like taxes and other fees that are associated with your purchase.
You can finance the taxes into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people. I mean.
So that can definitely affect the gap, or the value, if you will, is the taxes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You could get a great. I mean, you get a great deal on a vehicle, but then when you finance those other things into it, it may raise the need for gap. So if you're doing a longer term, definitely I would say consider it, especially if you're not putting a lot of money down, and if you if you have negative equity. if you're now financing, basically negative equity from
Oh,
another
I never
vehicle.
thought about that. Okay,
Yeah.
if you have negative equity in the trade-in that you're providing, gap insurance is going to help you
Absolutely.
on the other side.
Yeah.
I see.
Yep.
Okay. That's very interesting. I've learned something new today. That's great. So let me ask you this. Many people hear the word extended warranty, but the correct term is often vehicle service contract, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So how does this differ from factory warranties that come with a new Ford?
So your factory warranty is going to come from your factory.
Right.
Anything that you do outside of that is going to be like, you can call it an extended service contract, you can call it a vehicle service contract. But essentially what you're doing is you're just extending the time period where you have coverage on the vehicle. So if there is a major repair or even a minor repair, you're protected against that because of the fact that you have that coverage. And the coverage varies. You can have anything from just powertrain, strictly powertrain coverage, all the way up to something that would kind of resemble a factory bumper-to-bumper warranty. It's very comprehensive.
Are these protection plans a one-size-fit-all plan, or can they be customized to fit the driver's specific habits or budgets?
So they can be customized depending upon how many miles per year someone's driving and how many years they plan on ownership, and also budget, of course, plays a role, and that's something that we want to make sure that we're attending to. But yes, you can tailor them to specific customer needs.
I got you. So for someone who's trying to stick to a real strict budget, let's just say, and I'm sure you've had them in your office, right? I've got to only spend this much money.
Yep.
How do you help them to determine which of these products offer the most practical value and peace of mind for their new investment?
And budget is increasingly more important
Right.
for our customers, and so we want to make sure that we're addressing that. And a lot of times, you're right. That's something that is a great concern. So I mean, essentially, what we're doing is we're interviewing the customer. We're talking to them. We're just determining what they're doing with the vehicle. Like, for example, if someone's towing the vehicle regularly, and they're and they plan on keeping it for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and they're driving 15 to 20,000 miles a year because they do a lot of trips and they tow a camper. I mean, that's someone that I'm at minimum, and if budget's a concern, I'm going to try to help them find coverage in powertrain, because you definitely want to make sure that
Now, tell the folks what does you mean by powertrain? I know what it means, but our listeners may not.
Powertrain is going to cover those major components related to your powertrain. So your engine, your transmission, your drive axle, those things will be covered.
I got you. If someone wanted to get in to being an F&I director at a dealership, say we're one of our listeners that says, I'd really like to learn how to do that. How can they do that? How can they get there?
Any dealership that I've ever worked with, you've kind of, if you didn't have experience, say you're starting out, you just kind of work your way through the ranks. You start in sales.
Yeah, is that typically what happens? You start as a salesperson, and then you move up to what? Maybe a sales manager at some point, or assistant sales manager, or something like that.
Yeah, usually you're like you said, you're gonna start as like a salesperson, and then it depends on the roles that the dealership has. But then you can have like what they refer to as like floor managers, where they're basically out on the floor and they're helping,
Floor manager, okay.
Yeah. And then usually from that role, you'll kind of go into finance.
Okay.
And then you'll spend some time, learning and going through the certifications and the things that I've done.
Now, how long does it take to get the certifications?
I mean, it's a process that it kind of just depends on how you learn. It could take several weeks. It could take several months. It just depends on how much time you're putting into it.
I guess it's like anything else. It's just how much time you want to put into it to get there, right?
That's right.
I got you. Okay. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Last question. I just sometimes our readers want to hear personal stories from our guests.
Yeah, I mean, my greatest, the greatest joy, I guess you could say, I have in this role is when you have those customers that come in and and they just have had some type of an experience wowing their socks off, just like giving them, rolling out the red carpet, making them feel like royalty, regardless of what it is that they're buying.
Yeah. And I know the F&I director is a big part of the overall experience, right? That a customer has with a dealership. Is their last person they talk to is the F&I director usually. So thank you again so much for joining us
Thanks for
today.
having me, Tim.
It's been really good having you. I've learned lots today, lots of the terms and things. Some of this stuff I had no idea about, so it's really good. So thank you for
Glad
joining.
I could help. Yep.
Thank you for joining. And thank you all for watching today. This is Tim Gowens here at Summer Street Productions. We are located in Kennesaw, Georgia. And if I can assist you, feel free to contact us. We'd love to help you. Chris, if they want to contact you or ask a question, what's your email address or phone number?
Sure. They can reach me at 770-592-0090, extension 1335, with any questions that they may have.
Well, that's great. Well, once again, thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Very welcome.
You guys, thanks for watching today.